You know, I've given up my life as a layman, where I wanted to make the focus of my life be based on what really moves me, what I feel happens to be the purpose of my life, instead of making money, instead of accumulating possessions or just pursuing enjoyments, pleasures, things like that, which there isn't anything wrong with, as a layman though. Because I was caught between the two worlds for a little over 35 years. Yeah, 35 years. And I became a bhikkhu, finally, something that I wanted to become for a long time. But the outside circumstances did not allow it. Culturally, family as not my own family, but my parents, my dad specifically, because my mother had already died. So this issue that we were talking about earlier, as far as bhikkhus being bhikkhus, what is the purpose of being a bhikkhu? Bhikkhu meaning a Buddhist monk of the Theravada tradition. Well, you can expand it to all monks, all monastics, at least within the Buddhist tradition, in all the different aspects or branches of the Buddhist path, not just Theravada, but I'm a Theravadan Buddhist monk. I was thinking about the reasons why we talk about careers, titles, professions. And in my recent travels around the world during this COVID-19 thing, as well as my journey as a student, I will die a student, by the way, because I'm always trying to learn what I don't know, what I don't understand, whatever comes up. But during that quest, spiritual quest, I've met numerous bhikkhus, bhikkhunis, monks, nuns, and oftentimes I would come across a dilemma. For me it was a dilemma, not for the many that I came across. And that had to do with this explanation that was provided for me, that a bhikkhu or a monk, a Buddhist monk or a nun, there's two categories, there's two types. One who dedicates one's life to the practice, to truly experience, understand, and penetrate to the core of the Dhamma, become awakened, meaning experience Nibbana itself. And the other one, which happens to be the majority of bhikkhus, which when I heard what I'm about to say, it was quite disheartening, has to do with the other group or type of bhikkhus that are just scholars, that just study. Well, not all of this group that excludes itself from practice and pursuing the path are in fact scholars. Many of them are illiterate, many of them are just, they're just there. brought into the sangha at a very, very young age, usually in Asian countries, where there are several children, boys, one or more of those boys end up being sent to the monastery because they know it, we know it, everyone knows it, that becomes an opportunity. Aside from the fact that they won't have to worry about feeding another mouth in the family, but also it opens up the door for much respect, notoriety, and special treatment on behalf of the society at large, to know that such and such a family has one of their sons as a bhikkhu. So it turns into a career. This is something that is not spoken. I have not heard this being said, but after being in the midst of circles that you see this a lot, where the old explanation, which I was also offered, that yes, there are two groups, one is a scholar, the other one is the practicing bhikkhu, that no longer holds water, because you have the majority of monks not being practitioners, unfortunately. Not being practitioners. Meanwhile, when you look at the history of the sasana, or the dispensation of the Lord Buddha, you see that the very purpose of becoming a bhikkhu is to realize the Four Noble Truths, to penetrate, to see with penetrating wisdom the truth that is nibbana, period. Not to become scholars. In fact, the Buddha called those individuals who never practiced or never developed at least even a single jhana idiots. He would call them stupid. There's one story where the Buddha would call this elder monk gray-haired idiot. He would call him that in front of his students. The students of that gray-haired idiot, because he was known as a very knowledgeable scholar monk. Imagine, what a waste. He knew the discourses of Lord Buddha, but he never practiced them. His own brother became an arahant. The Buddha himself did not have respect for these scholarly monks. I myself have met quite a number of monks who justified their lifestyle, their choice in not even wanting to sit to meditate. Not even wanting to sit down and meditate. And both of us happen to be ordained bhikkhus. So to me it seems quite strange. Because if we look at the career, after all, it's a lifetime path that one has chosen for oneself. And if there are these priests, countless number of them, not just in Southeast Asia, but around the world, most of the temples. But I wonder how many of them are actually practicing monks and practicing nuns. The Buddha did not want us, for us bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, to become scholars. He despised philosophy. I've had senior monks who had been monks over 60 years. That's 60 vassas. So we're talking about approximately 80 years old, who, when I asked them, Bhante, you have told me that you have not practiced, you haven't experienced any jhanas, or you haven't attained anything, any supramundane state. I'm curious, when you die, what will happen to you? One particular Mahatera comes to mind, and he said, well, given the knowledge that I have of the suttas, most probably I will be reborn in a Deva realm. Well, a Deva realm. I think it's in the Anguttara Nikaya where the Buddha is asking his students, his monks, what would they say if practitioners or recluses from other sects came to them, the students, and asked the question, friends, do you practice the Dhamma under the guidance of your teacher, Gautama, in order for you to attain higher rebirths in the Deva realms? And the students, the monks, respond, no, Lord. And the Buddha asks, why is that? And they say, because that is not why you teach us, what you teach us. And the Buddha says, exactly, because that is displeasing to me. That is, the whole idea of being reborn in the heavenly realm is basically beneath him, beneath them. It's disgusting. This is another reason why I highly emphasize the need for us to practice what we have studied. After all, imagine an architect, a carpenter, a sculptor, an electrician, a garbage collector, a taxi driver, Uber driver, anybody who has a career, has a profession, who goes to a party or who goes and speaks to friends, and everyone knows this person to be the electrician, architect, even a politician. Imagine everyone agrees that this person is the electrician, this person is the carpenter, this person is the garbage collector, and this person lives with that title, with that badge, and everyone acknowledges the fact that he is of this profession, but the person never collects garbage. The garbage man never collects garbage. The electrician doesn't even know what to do with cables, with how to fix an air conditioning system, or how to connect two live wires of electricity, how to construct a building if they're so-called architects or engineers. Doesn't even know how to make a simple stool or a simple box out of wood if they're calling themselves carpenters. Imagine, would we accept such an individual? Would we pay for that person? For the simple fact that they call themselves the Uber driver. Meanwhile, they don't even have a car, or they don't know how to drive, or they can't find their car, or they don't own a car. Would we acknowledge such a person as belonging to this career path? No, we don't. It's so simple. It's ridiculously simple. However, when it comes to religious practitioners, and this, obviously you can expand. I'm only talking from the capacity of being a Buddhist monk, a Bhikkhu. Of course, you can spread it to all the other religions. It's a ruse. It's fake. If I'm wearing these robes, there's a reason for it. There must be a reason for it. And there usually is. What that reason is, that's the main crux of the matter. The way I understand it is that a bhikkhu becomes a bhikkhu to practice and to attain nibbana, or to die trying. Not to go and move to the United States or to a Western country to have a temple where they do pujas and that's it, where they don't know how to sit and meditate, where they don't encourage meditation, where they don't serve the community in that capacity. This is something that is not being spoken about. Many Buddhists have left the path or the religion of their ancestors because of this reason. Many Westerners who have gone to the East, to Southeast Asia, and became bhikkhus have left because of this hypocrisy that they've seen happening around them. And I understand their frustration. I have experienced them myself. I've seen this in my travels. I've seen this in my travels in Europe recently, where individuals from these specific communities Buddhist communities from Southeast Asian countries, fully supporting the temples, and the abbot and the fellow monks who have been supported to get their residency, to get all the resources, every kind of facility you can imagine, being provided for by the laity. Yet, the very best thing that they could do is celebrating the Katina ceremony, or offering the weekly or daily pujas, without talking about the Dhamma, without encouraging them to practice, because they themselves are not practicing. This is the issue. What I'm saying is completely politically incorrect. And I definitely am, exposing an open wound. But I've always been a teacher who, years ago when I used to teach as a layman, children, teenagers, adults, in different capacity, as a professor, as a high school teacher, etc. One thing I realized very quickly, that a teacher, even a teenager can do this, can be figured out. A teacher can be figured out so easily within the first 1 minute to 5 minutes. 5 minutes is being very generous, by the way, as to who this person is. Is he a fake or is he not? Does he care or does he not? And I've seen so many people with tears in their eyes, with the desire to learn. Desire to learn. These supporters of temples that I mentioned earlier, lay people, who had so much Dhamma, desire for the Dhamma, to practice the Dhamma, but they were never given the opportunity. Because these temples had turned into community centers, and that's it. As a revenue-making center, where the money was going to be collected, new temples were going to be constructed, or monasteries in Asia, in their home countries. Money would be sent over there. And usually, the locals of that specific country, I'm not talking about the members of their community from those old countries, whether it's Sri Lanka or anywhere else. If it's the UK, if it's Italy, if it's somewhere, that's what I'm talking about. The typically non-Asian people would really hesitate to walk inside the doors of such a temple because they realize that they do not belong. The language, first of all. There's a huge language barrier because these bhikkhus are still talking in their native languages, even though they are benefiting from these Western countries who have opened their arms widely to accept them. I mean, I have so many stories. Monks, bhikkhus who have lived in Western countries for over 15, 20 years, who cannot speak a single sentence in that country's language. Why? Because everything else is being provided for them by their own people, their own ethnic communities. Which I'm not against. What I am trying to voice here is simply the fact that if a person calls themselves a bhikkhu or a bhikkhuni, if we have walked away from life, and by the way, walking away from life as a layman is a two-way street. I believe that if I am, or any bhikkhu, is no longer serving the purpose of living and dedicating oneself to the path of a bhikkhu, meaning to go after, to seek out wisdom, to attain nibbana. If the bhikkhu is not doing that, then they need to have at least the audacity, the integrity, the courage, the honesty to go and earn a living, a solid, honest living, by becoming a layman and becoming a carpenter or a garbage collector or an electrician or an architect. Why? Because those careers will not tolerate a fake representative of that profession. Meaning, if you say you're an electrician, you need to deliver the work of an electrician. We have been promulgating, we have been promoting a lifestyle during the past, I don't know how many years, in the East, Southeast Asia, and now it's spreading around the world. A lifestyle where bhikkhus, people wearing bhikkhus' robes, are not living as bhikkhus. Many of them are not even pursuing a college degree. Many of them have attained some type of academic recognition, but that's that. What they are very adamant about is adding more vassas, or the yearly 3-month retreat, which is like the badge. It's like the tree rings. That's such a sad, sorry reason for becoming a bhikkhu. Is that it? It's a joke. Pile of rocks that has been there for hundreds of millions of years probably would have more value than them, if that is only what they have to go for or over. There's got to be more reason for a bhikkhu to be a bhikkhu, instead of saying, well, this is the only lifestyle I know. Well, no, you don't. If I cannot distinguish your life as a bhikkhu or a layman, meaning, if I see you accumulating possessions, properties, adding more facilities to your temple, making it bigger and bigger in acreage, or having more supporters. That's no reason to become a bhikkhu or stay a bhikkhu. That's even more pertinent, I think, staying as a bhikkhu. Because one has to have the courage to say, you know what, I'm not serving truly. Might as well become a politician in civilian clothing, because that person does not belong in the robes. The robes stand for something. They protect a person. They protect a person. But not when the person is eyeing the lay life. They're greedy for becoming lay. I have tremendous respect for those individuals who have been bhikkhus or monks for many years, perhaps 2 decades. And then one day, after coming to the West, they realize, you know what? This isn't for me. And they leave, they disrobe, and they put on the suit and tie, they go into lay life. I respect those bhikkhus because they have the courage to live authentically instead of hiding. As bhikkhus, we are not supposed to hide anything, let alone hide behind the robes we wear. Enough hiding. Enough hiding behind our robes. And this goes to those bhikkhus who have nothing to show for other than decades long of vasas, rains retreats, and that is all they have to go by. Practice is essential. If I am encouraging, if I'm urging all the time my students to become practitioners, students who are lay students, I demand a lot more from us bhikkhus and bhikkhunis. You know, something that I saw recently, it has to do with Elon Musk. And he was saying something about the reason why corporations or companies are there. What is the purpose of a company? And he said, it's not about making money. It's about making a better product and serving the customer. I love that. He is exemplifying what I'm trying to talk about or mention here. So let's live truthfully as bhikkhus. Thank you.